Well, hello. Welcome to my craft table. It's Trini here. Well, I must admit, Easter has kind of got away from me this year. I thought I had a bit of time up my sleeve, and then now suddenly it's upon us. Now, I have been collecting and I've been even making a few bits and pieces towards an Easter journal. So I did want to get it done. It would be a kind of shame not to finish it off. So what I thought I would do is actually make the journal on this video. How far through I get, I don't know, but I wanted to show you my way of collecting for a journal. This is a new thing for me, but it's working out so well, and I think I'll be definitely, well, I know I will be doing this more and more for my journals. Now, this would suit you if you had a small space and you don't have all the room to spread out. So I bought these folders from Temu, and if you want to have a look at my Temu video, or I could try and link these specific folders and the inserts as well. I have labeled my folder Easter, and it's got all these various pockets inside, and I find them perfect actually. Just going to try and weight that down on the side there. I find these perfect actually. You can see I've got a postcard in there, and I don't think you would want to go much bigger than this for certain things. So for ephemera tags, journal cards, postcards, that sort of thing, I think it would be good to tuck inside. These two are just some plastic pockets that I found, but getting onto these ones here, these have got 4 little pockets, and they've got these little flaps which are fantastic for stopping the contents from spilling out. That's why I've got these little bulldog clips here, because kind of when you pick it up, these can slide, these loose bits can slide forward, and you can constantly be bending over and picking up the contents. So that's what I did. You can see this one here is trying to sort of scoot out. So as I've been creating and collecting for the journal, I've been tucking them into this, and I've got folders for autumn, rabbit, bee and botanical. So when I finish doing this one, I will actually film a botanical journal. We'll move on to doing botanical journals, but I thought this would be a good little practice run for me to see how this all works. So I've got all my little elements, I've got all my fussy cuts ready to go, and I've even picked out some ribbon trim that I thought would go nicely. I've got some little, and this is a wonderful way of shopping your stash. So I've gone through and revisited all my little containers and all my little, you know, buckets and little totes and things, and I've just pulled out what I thought. Now I may not end up using some of this, but I just pulled out, not crazily, but I just pulled out what I thought would suit. So I even found this morning, because I thought, oh, I haven't got any little bunny charms, but you know, there's a couple of little bunny charms that I found. So this is, you can see I've got some spare ones, because as I say, I don't know yet how many pockets would be feasible to put in, to have to fill up bits and pieces for a journal. So this will be a good experiment for me. So I've got some serviettes, and then I've got some bits of folded over tea-dyed paper ready to go. This is some journal pages, some more ephemera, and I'm ready to go. Now I have been playing around with a cover idea, so I just wanted to show you that, just for a little bit of inspiration and to show you what is now becoming my process. So for my journal cover, I'm using a file folder. I folded these up a long time ago, and I've got many of them. So this would be roughly A5, I would say, in size. In case you're interested, I will get some measurements for you. But this is 15 centimeters across, and it's nearly 21 centimeters in height, and in inches that is 6 inches, just slightly short of 6 inches, and then that is 8 1/4, I would say, inches. So I went through my bits and pieces. Now for my journal, my Easter journal, I'm using a lot of Roxy Creations because I just think she's got the most beautiful Easter. For me, I like it. This journal is going to be actually for me, so I thought I'm going to work with what makes me happy. I found this piece of satin. Now, it's either satin or silk. I think it actually might even be silk. I bought some wedding dress offcuts. It's actually from a bridal shop, and I don't even remember where I got it from. I got it from a few years ago, but I bought a couple of bags of just their random offcuts, and I got all this silk and I did not know what to do with it. But this one has been backed and it's a nice piece. I've obviously saved it and thought that would be good as a journal base. So I've had a look, and that will fit very, very nicely. That will do perfectly. Obviously I'll have to trim it a little bit, but I thought that's going to be my base. Now my fabrics I got from Rachel, and I've collected these over the years. This is a collection of many years worth of purchases, so it's nice to be able to actually use it. And I've got this serviette with this cute little bunny. Now I've been playing around with my decoupage and I've been really, really happy with how that's been going. You know, I've only just kind of got into it, so I know I'm not a master at it, but you know what, it works for me and I'm happy with it. And I had a comment on one of my videos about Mod Podge, and it stays tacky. I think it depends on the climate that you live in. I live in Australia. And I live in Perth in particular, and we're a very arid, dry climate, so I do not have problems with that at all. I know you can use PVA glue or you can use other alternative glues suitable for decoupage, but for me, when I do my journal covers, I do tend to use PVA, so that's what I'll be using. So my thoughts, let's get onto the cover. So my thoughts were that, let me let's fold this down and get a bit of an idea. Actually, I might get my clips out at this stage just to help. Okay, so that's very roughly how it's going to look. Stick that down. So I'm thinking what I'll do is I'll take my little bunny. So let me cut that now that we're getting to the point where I actually do start to create the cover. So I'll just take off the backing piece. This one is fairly loose, so normally I use a piece of sticky tape, but this one does seem to come off quite easily. So you'll see that I've got one layer and two layers. Now I'm starting to keep these again because I've been watching a few tutorials and I've got some ideas of how I would like to use those. So I am starting to keep those. So I'm just going to cut my little square out with my bunny. Okay, so that one's going to go about there. So then I thought, see if I can remember how I was doing this. I've got this piece, beautiful piece here. So I'm thinking I'll put that piece there. Yeah. So I think I'll actually just literally put that piece in that top corner there. Okay, and then I have got this this piece here. This is striped fabric. Whether it's mattress ticking, I don't know, but it's a lovely colour and I thought it just went beautifully. So I think I'm going to put that like that. Let me just fray this up a little bit. It's got this lovely frayed bit here. But I think I prefer it like that. So I might get that to come on the back like so. So let's get some more of the clips. Okay, and then I thought I would get this lovely piece of lace and tuck that in under there and just have that going over like so. So I will snip this, but just for now I'll just keep it like this. Okay, and then I've got this lovely piece of lace here. Now I thought I would just put that across, maybe like that. Whether or not I end up maybe pleating it like that, I think I will actually. So let's just fold that in a bit and we'll tuck this in, so it just gives it that little bit of fold there. So I might move this up just so that we don't see that sharp corner there. All right, so that just sort of hides that little bit there. All right, let me see if I'm doing this straight. Obviously when I come to actually doing it, I'll pin and secure everything properly. But I'm just sort of getting an idea of how I would like to design the cover. Okay, just slightly adjust that, but we'll fix that when we come to glue that down. Okay, but yeah, a few fibres and bits and pieces catching there. Okay, so all right, so that's how I'm envisaging the front cover will look, with the addition of this little bunny here. All right, so he'll have to we'll just pin him for now. We'll just pin him on the side there like that, but he'll come across. So on the back, I'll have that come around a little bit like that, and then I've got this other piece here which I'll do like that. Actually, I might even bring that like so. So let me see how that will look. Yeah, let's do that. So that can come underneath like that. All right, so I do think I want that to be around about there, which means that maybe I need to put this underneath. Yeah, we'll do it like that. So let me just secure this piece here. Then our bunny can be there. This came with the fabric, so this isn't my stamp. This and I assume that this would be a Mackie stamp. Now it's got a little bit of a stamping image on there. I might just do like a little running stitch down there just to stitch over that. Okay, so I'm thinking I'm really happy with that. So that's how that's looking on the back. And then I've got this piece of lace which we'll do like so. Right, so that's how we're looking. All right, so now that we've got our design there and ready to go, I will get together my bits and pieces and we will decoupage this little rabbit bit down, because once that's done then the rest of it is going to be fairly easy. Okay, so I have got my PVA glue here and I've got myself a brush. And I've got myself a couple of these Glad Wrap bags, which I'll just keep over here for now. So I'll just carefully take everything apart now. Perhaps what I will do is keep this part on, just so I know that I'm getting the right positioning. Okay, so not done this before on fabric. So I'm thinking just in this bottom corner here. All right, what I'm going to do is just paint some of this glue down onto the fabric. Now I'm not making it super wet, but obviously I'm getting the glue into the fibers, creating a nice coating. And then I'm going to carefully now, let me just get that down the bottom here. Okay, just going to now place my piece down and smooth it out. Looks like you have to work quick. I'm just patting this down. Look, I don't mind a few wrinkles and creases. I think that just will give it a little bit of texture anyway. But I'm going to try and smooth this out as best I can. And yeah, I think I've got that pretty good. I've lost maybe a little bit of the leaf there, but honestly, I don't mind about that. All right, so that's it. All right, I'm going to let that dry now. And the next step will be maybe to carefully glue the edges, but I might do that now actually. I don't feel it needs another coat because I think the serviette is well and truly saturated with the glue. So I'm just going to leave that. The little bunny has just wrinkled here, I've noticed. So let me just press that down. So I'll keep an eye on it, and if I need to, I'll come in and press it down. But I'm going to let that dry now. In fact, what might be good is if I place another piece on top. I'll put my weight right in the middle there, and then we'll see how that, I'll give it about an hour or so to dry. Okay, so the napkin is dry now and it's turned out very nicely. So I've got my wool mat out and I'm just going to get some baking paper, but I'm just going to give it an iron. I don't think it really needs it, but it would be good to give it an iron anyway, just to get the creases out of the silk. So I've just got this little craft iron here. So I'm just going to carefully just iron over it. And then I'm just going to iron over the rest. And just get all those creases out. I mean, ultimately it's going to be covered anyway. But I just thought I might as well. But yeah, I'm very happy with how that's turned out. So I think what I'll do is I will finish the cover, as in we'll just do a few more steps, and then I'll call this part 1, and this will be the cover, and then we'll finish, we'll do the pages tomorrow, and we'll do all the inside work, as in the stamping and the pockets and adding lace and all the sewing on bits. And I think we, touch wood, have got enough ephemera. I'll have to probably finish off a few pieces of ephemera, and hopefully by Sunday I'll have this finished, and then I can possibly do a flip through by the Monday. So we will now just work our way through and finish all the cover bits. All right, so I have got my fabric here. Now I want to trim it down, so I've got one of these. It's the Mark and Be Gone, so it's water soluble, but I should have used the other one, I realized. But you're not going to see it anyway. So I've trimmed where I want it. Now what I did was I've decided that, I don't know if you can see, but there's the silk and then there's this lining bit, and there's like this little gap here. So what I've done is I've lined up my journal cover to go on the lining bit, and then there'll be this little bit here. So then what I did was I used the seam there of the lining, and then I kind of moved it up a little bit, and then I just took my marker and I've made a line. So I'm going to now trim to that line, this excess piece up the top here. Okay, I might end up making a ruffle on this piece here, so I'll keep that. All right, so I have now got my, and sorry about my throat, I've got a bit of a sore throat. I'm not sure if I've come down with something, or so sorry if I make those sort of coughing sounds. All right, so I'm going to now, let's trim the bottom of the napkin. I might use these scissors here and just trim that little excess piece of the napkin that's hanging over the edge there. Okay, let me just snip this just to smooth out. I think I caught a little bit of the fabric there. There we go. All right, so now we've got our fabric. So I think what I'll do is I will now glue this down so we can get it into the right so that is what we've got. Now I might, end up trimming that top bit a little bit, and which will get rid of any of those little blue marker bits. So I think I'll glue the base down, and then no, I won't, because I want to do some sewing. So if that's the case, then I think what I need to do is make sure I've got everything lined up. Okay, that's firm. So I'm going to secure this now. All right, so I'll get my scissors and I'm just going to trim the top. I think I want this just a little bit over. I want that right on the edge there. So let me just, there we go. Yep, that's how I want it. Yeah, I think that's about right. So I don't really want it to have I don't want it to be too loose, because I don't want to start piecing everything in, and then when I come to glue it down, it's all slightly misaligned. So I just want to make sure everything is pretty well in the right position. Okay. Right, so we've got a little bit of allowance up the top there, and then we've got a little bit of an allowance. I guess I can always trim it if I need to at the end of the day. All right, so I'm thinking that the way to go is to attach this piece first. And then we will attach this piece. Because then we wanted this piece, didn't we? No, this piece came over on this side, didn't it? Okay, so we want this piece, then we want that only just fits, you know. Didn't even really think about that, but that fits perfectly. Okay, so we want that to come like that. Glue that and then bring that around. So then we glue that, or do we glue that? Yeah, I think, all right, so I think what we'll do is, this is the first piece to glue down. So I've got my PVA glue here. I probably will need to get some more. All right, now let's start piecing this together. All right, so we've got that back piece on. I'll just take any loose bits of thread just to get those fibres sort of sticking up there. Alright, so then we'll get this piece down. So let me try and figure out how much glue I need. So I need to come down to about here. Right, and then we want this piece here. So let me make sure I've got this right. So I think that's the right way there. We'll have that coming up here, and then we'll have our little bit there. Yeah, so I think that's good. So I'll just move this up a little bit higher so you can see. Alright, so this is going to be easier because I can just now line this up at the back here. I like working with PVA glue with fabric because it dries clear and it's a good, it glues down well, and it also gives you time to move things around if you need to. Okay, so this one we can move. I wouldn't use the fabric glue for this from the Helmars because it's a sticky finish. Well, when I say sticky, I mean a glossy finish. So yeah, I don't like that look. So I only use that when I'm gluing lace down to fabric, or like anytime I'm gluing fabric down but the underside where you won't see it, that's when I'll use that glue. But see how it's gotten a bit wet here? When that dries, you won't see that. That'll dry. Whereas if you use the other glues and it dries, you get a bit of a stain, whereas you don't get that with the PVA glue. So now that I've got all my pieces, let me just get this. I'm going to need to get some more PVA glue. I mean, you can use any PVA glue, but that's what I'm using. I think I picked this up at Bunnings or Office Works or something like that, but I'm fairly sure I picked this up at Bunnings. All right, so that's all glued down. The front's glued down. So let's get this bit of lace down. And hopefully I can take this off because I do want to do a little bit of sewing. I'll run through what I want to do, but I will do that off camera so that when we start again in part 2, that I'll have that done. Okay, so yeah, I'm pretty sure this is the right way. Alright, so I'm just working this edge here just to make sure that that doesn't buckle or anything like that. Okay, so what have we got left to do? we've got this piece here. I think this is the right way. So this one I want to sort of do with a little pleat. So I'm thinking I might stitch that. I might make a little stitch and then glue that. But we can get this little bit down and then we can get the lace down. So let's get the lace down. What I think I'll do when I do end up putting it on, I think I'll tuck that down and then I might even bring that down like that as well. So I might end up just gluing this. So I think I can take this off now. So I don't really want it to glue down onto the cover. But what I think I'll do is I'll just get some glue. I'll just come along here a little bit as well and glue that down. We need to come down. Okay. All right, so I think the back is fine. Now I am planning on doing some stitching, just some nice little threads, you know, just do a little bit of stitching across here. And on this side here, so let me sort of roughly see where, yeah, I think if let's trim this up a little bit. Don't want it too perfect. Let's see if we can get that to fray a little. Not the easiest to fray by the looks of it, but oh, here we go. And I'll try and get this to fray a bit as well. It's not the easiest to fray, but once you get a few threads going, it does seem to work out. All right, so I think we'll glue that one down. We'll get that sort of pieced on like that. All right, so I have now got this on. Let me just make sure I've got this lace in the right position. Okay. I think that's better. All right, so I'm going to let that dry now, and like I said, this will be part one, but apart from, so with the sewing, I'm going to do some stitching down here, and then I might do, you know, like a bit of I might do a few flowers, or I might just do a little bit of stitching just here to cover that. This will be covered, so there'll be no need to stitch anything there. Might do even a little bit of cross stitch here, and just maybe even some cross stitch here, or we'll see what I end up doing there. And then on the back, I'll just do some stitching, just some whip stitch or something like that across here. Thank you for joining me, and I hope that that gave you some inspiration. I know it's a little bit late for actually probably making something, but you can certainly use the principles to make something else, or you can make a bunny journal, whatever. But we'll see you in the next one. Thank you. Bye.